Today, we're jumping into a story that literally lit up the world of science. It's about a mysterious element and the unbelievable passion and grit it took to find it. This is a story of resilience that truly changed everything.
So, picture this, a brand new substance, something so powerful it actually gives off its own faint, almost magical light. This wasn't some kind of science fiction novel. This was real, happening at the turn of the 20th century, and it absolutely captivated everyone who heard about it.
I mean, the things this stuff could do just seemed to defy the laws of physics. It wasn't just glowing, it was constantly creating its own energy, its own heat, and shooting out these powerful invisible rays from nowhere, it seemed. It was a total mystery.
So, who was the person who unraveled this mystery? Well, our story doesn't start with some famous, established scientist. It starts with a determined student who had to fight tooth and nail just for the chance to learn in the first place.
This is Marie Curie, and her journey began by hitting a wall that stopped so many others. See, back in her home country of Poland, she couldn't go to university simply because she was a woman, but she didn't give up. Instead, she packed her bags and moved to Paris to chase her dream at one of the best universities in the world. Now, her life in Paris was anything but glamorous. She lived in this tiny attic, often freezing and hungry. But her hunger for knowledge, that was way stronger. She poured every ounce of her being into her studies.
And it's that incredible passion that led her to a brand new scientific puzzle. A tiny signal coming from the very heart of matter that, most scientists were just ignoring.
So here's what happened. In 1896, a scientist named Henri Becquerel discovered that uranium salts gave off these strange, invisible rays. He called it radioactivity. To most people, it was just a neat little curiosity. But to Marie Curie, it was the perfect, unexplored topic for her doctorate, a field no one else thought was all that important.
And as she was digging into this phenomenon, she found something weird, an anomaly, a clue that suggested something way bigger was happening. One specific mineral just wasn't playing by the rules.
Right, so Marie was measuring the radiation coming from this uranium ore called pitchblende, and she found it was 4 times more radioactive than the pure uranium inside it should have been. That just doesn't add up. There could only be one explanation. There had to be something else in that rock, a new, undiscovered element that was off the charts powerful.
Now, having a theory is one thing. Proving it is something else entirely. And what came next wasn't some neat and tidy work in a shiny lab. No, this was a brutal, physical fight to literally forge a new element out of tons of rock.
And their laboratory, you could barely call it that. It was a drafty, leaky shed. Seriously, it was barely better than working outside. This is where Marie and her husband, Pierre Curie, did their world-changing research, surrounded by boiling cauldrons with a roof that leaked every time it rained. The process itself was just grueling. For 4 long years, they crushed, dissolved, boiled, and separated that ore, one painstaking bit at a time. Marie would spend her days stirring these huge vats of boiling, dangerous chemicals, slowly concentrating the invisible element they were hunting for.
Let this number really sink in for a second. 8 tons. That's about the weight of an elephant. And they had to process all of that material by hand just to get a tiny sample of radium salt that could fit on the tip of your finger. The level of persistence is just mind-boggling.
But all that back-breaking work, it paid off. Big time. In just 1 year, 1898, they didn't just find one new element. They found 2. First came polonium, which Marie touchingly named after her home country. And then they found the big one, radium, named for the intense rays it was always emitting.
This discovery brought them worldwide recognition, and it changed science forever. But it also came with a hidden, terrible price, one they wouldn't even begin to understand for years.
Her achievements were simply historic. In 1903, Marie Curie became the first woman to ever win a Nobel Prize. Then, in 1911, she won a second one in a completely different field. To this day, she is still the only person to ever win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. Just incredible.
The Curies were absolutely mesmerized by their discovery. They would keep little vials of radium by their bedside just to watch its beautiful blue glow. They even carried samples around in their pockets. They had no idea that the very energy they had unlocked was silently and constantly damaging their own bodies. And here's something that'll give you chills. More than a century later, Marie Curie's personal notebooks are still so radioactive
that they have to be kept in special lead-lined boxes. It's a permanent, physical reminder of her work.
So yes, despite the terrible personal cost, the Curie's relentless work didn't just discover a new element, it unlocked a fundamental force of nature and completely lit up the future of science and medicine.
The impact was just monumental. Their work didn't just add a new element to the periodic table, it completely shattered the idea that atoms were these tiny, unchangeable things. Suddenly, we knew that atoms could decay, transform, and release unbelievable amounts of energy. This became the bedrock for all of atomic science. It gave us radiation therapy for cancer, and it paved the way for everything from nuclear energy to medical imaging. Radium really did open the door to the atomic age.
And this quote from Marie Curie herself just says it all. For her, the unknown wasn't something to run from. It was a challenge. It was something to be explored and understood with logic and persistence, no matter how hard it was. Her story just proves that some of the greatest discoveries come from people who are willing to go searching in the dark, driven purely by a belief in the unknown. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What new frontiers, what other glowing mysteries are still out there, just waiting for the next curious person who simply refuses to give up?